Good morning and welcome to the fresh edition of my live comments. Many times we see that, and here, of course, the news 27 migrants in Mediterranean Sea, an illegal boatload of refugees coming from Myanmar to Bangladesh, besieged in the ocean. 30 people dead. Punjabi Sikh boys posing as refugees, going to Latin America and then trying to cross over to USA and Canada. These are everyday stories that we hear. And looking at the situation in the world, and the population demographics of me, almost 3% of the world population live outside their country. Nothing wrong with that. But nearly 3 times as many people, that means 10% of the world population, wish that they could live somewhere else apart from their country. Some are hoping for safety from violence and suppression of human rights. Others want a way out of poverty. Others simply seek to take the advantage of economy, more opportunities, and pursue those avenues which are not available at home. And there's a vast majority of aspiring migrants who legally cannot go. There are restrictive immigration policies and they block the pathway to the benefits of the living elsewhere. The countries which are really progressive, like Norway, Finland, Sweden, they definitely have very restrictive policies. Even countries like Canada and Australia have not an open border policy. They welcome refugees, but in a limited number. And the legal immigration. Now, this is a perfect scenario for any businessman to come and take advantage of. These migrants, legal, I'm not counting, I'm talking about the illegal, who have no hope of ever crossing the border in a proper manner. They are a ripe fruit ready to be plucked by the migrant smugglers. Now, what happens is, when there is a huge demand, supply would always be there. And there's a huge demand for the people who want to go, whatever the cost may be. And the migrant smugglers come to them as angels. They pay the angels, but they know that they'll be able to go there and go where they cannot go legally and avail of the opportunities that are denied to them. In case the borders were truly open, the market for the smugglers would cease to exist. There's no denying the fact that most of the countries are made of migrants. But when you migrate to a place and become a part of that, you don't want it to be overrun by other migrants, because then what would happen? It would convert the place where you have gone into the original place from where you came. As long as the population is restricted, the resources are sufficient to give them a higher standard of life. But in case they were to become overpopulated, and they would become overpopulated. If you remember the Muslim Hijrat, Islam increased in numbers after the first Hijrah. Had that hijrat not taken place, the number of the Muslims in the world would not have been 1.5 billion. It would have been much less. It would have been confined only to the Middle East. But no, the hijrat permitted them to go to the new places. And since they were not welcome, they became aggressive and converted the local populations. That's a process. The Britishers came to India. The French went to Africa as conquerors. And they converted the people to their religion. Christianity was the way to go. So, what happens is that when there is an opportunity and that is others are not being permitted to use it, then it becomes a business model. And the migrant smugglers are nothing but businessmen, and they are engaged in an activity which is criminal from the public point of view, from the state point of view. But it's a fast growing and it's a very lucrative one. Imagine the people paying millions and then even then come as illegal migrants. Then you know what happens is these organizations are very flexible and very robust. Any business needs a proper way, a proper organization. But in the face of very clumsy and many times oppressive law enforcement, smuggling has become very sophisticated. They have professionalized their operations and developing the intelligence and connections necessary to withstand well-funded counter-smuggling operations. Recently, smugglers have demonstrated a breakthrough level of flexibility, and now they are very innovative. They have penetrated the humanitarian organizations, and these humanitarian organizations seek to rescue migrants in distress. Now, these smugglers become a part of those organizations and tell them that, look here, this is not the way to go. They'll send you as refugees. Your waiting period is maybe 1 year, maybe 1.5 years. We can take you in 2 months, but you'll have to pay for that. So, they put thousands of the people in one dingy, rickety boat and set it afloat. Their partners in the crime on the other side of the border are waiting for that to come or for the ramshackle bus to come. And in case the counter-smuggling people come, the perpetrators, the criminals would run away and the illegal migrants would fall in the hands of the organization. So there's no risk for them until and unless they are caught, and that happens rarely. The migrants might face arrest and prosecution, but the smuggler who has organized the journey reaps the profit and is shielded from all the errors. Now, there's a false communication. Recently, there was a global compact for migration, and it identified smuggling as a criminal offense that must be stopped at all costs. And it clearly asserts that it can be stopped provided sufficient resources are there and there is a cooperation between the states. But that is not so. The reality is that the countries do not cooperate with each other. Now, imagine, USA is throwing out illegals and Canada is welcoming them as refugees. This would give a chance to the human smugglers to entice those who are not aware that they can come independently as refugees. So they'll take the money, bring them up to the border and ask them to cross. That's all. And still they'll be charged. and coming from other parts of the world, say from Pakistan or from India. Now, those youth have very wrong notions of the life in Paris and North America. So what they do is they sell their lands, give the money to the smugglers, and come. There is a fundamental mismatch between information given by the public, given to the public by the government, and the reality for the prospective migrant. Many clients of migrant smugglers know all too well that the journey is dangerous. So to blame the smuggler for the danger or the death of the people is not valid. The people who are being smuggled are aware that they can die. If caught, they can be arrested and deported. But still, they always say, well, it can't happen to me. And then the law of probability, well, if 1,000 people have gone and 2 have been caught, doesn't matter. I'll be in the arrest of 998. Secondly, these prospective customers, the illegal migrants, face a genuine challenge in separating good smugglers from the bad smugglers. Well, my agent is good. My agent is the same one who took the nephew and the niece of a friend of mine, and they reached happily over there, and now they are having a very happy life. We know that. So that good smuggler established a reputation, and quite possible one day the ramshackle bus or the ship that he's carrying is 5 dozen people might be blasted. All might die, or some may die and some may become prisoners. So it's a migrant's responsibility, because they identify someone who will take them to the destination as safely as possible, but no guarantees for agreed service. Now, what are the limits of the liberal state like Canada or USA or Germany or any country? Ultimately, the modern liberal democratic simply is not up to the task of stopping facilitated irregular migrations. So let's be clear about that. These smugglers, these businessmen would always find a way to come out. As the United States and Australia have already learned that the countries of Southern Europe are coming to appreciate now that migration in the face of strong counterforce can only be achieved by continuous deployment of immense resources. Now, countries like America may be able to do it, and countries like Canada can do it if they're willing, but they're not willing. So there is a growing public tolerance for the increased militarization of migration control, and even the criminalization and detention of migrants. And that's why ICE of USA is so successful. Within the public and democratic countries, there is a sustained public appetite for large-scale violent action against these illegal immigrants. Again, nobody objects to the legal immigrants. You know, people have to understand the difference between the legal immigrant and illegal immigrant. A person who is an illegal immigrant is a thief coming to your house. A legal immigrant is a welcome guest. So these are that would differentiate. You are having a great house. You are extremely rich. So some people come to you and you welcome them. They are legal immigrants. But others think, well, if they have gone, why can't we go in the dark of night, break the door and enter? Now, they do not have the instruments to open the door. So they go to the smuggler and tell him, look here, here's the money, you just open the door, we'll go in. Let's not forget that acting effectively against migrant smuggling, the same qualities of capability are required with respect for the rule, in principle commitment to the human rights, accept the right of asylum and rejection of the discrimination. Migrant smugglers understand and exploit this paradox. They know that if they go for asylum for no reason, when gays were accepted in Canada, number of young Punjabis came as refugees saying they are gay, and in India they are being prosecuted under section 376, whereby they can be sent to 7 years jail. And when the people saw that the law has that provision, they did not consider nobody has been convicted till now. There will only be 4 or 5 convictions. But that gave them a right to come here. Same happened every time. You take something and the smugglers would find a way out of a plea which may be sustainable, may not be sustainable. So what happens? There is a need to be honest. Migrant smuggling is full of lies and waste time, energy, and goodwill. Let's not forget that refugees without smugglers, most fleeing the war and persecution, would never reach the safe havens. And attacking human smuggling, acknowledging at the same time that it's impossible to deal with, is a fatal flaw of the global asylum system. And global asylum system is deeply dishonest. Deeply dishonest. When Pol Pot was killing millions in Cambodia, why were those refugees not taken? But refugees from Myanmar are being taken. It is more politically oriented than reality oriented. When it's political, then it gives rise to a business. When prohibition was there, the smuggling of alcohol became prominent and profitable. Now there's a prohibition of immigration, limited though it is, so people go to them. Cracking down on smugglers would only make the journey more expensive, because smugglers will say, look, there's a danger to us now. If you are paying 500,000 earlier, now we'll charge you 700,000. It's difficult, dangerous for the people who still need the services. So, as long as the inequities continue, and as long as all countries are not able to provide identical standard of living, this craze for migration would continue. And as long as the craze for illegal migration continues, the smugglers would continue. It's a textbook example of wicked problem that's hard to define, keeps changing. You have to act in a different way. Accept the reality that it is like mafia, unorganized crime, under the shape of the need of the people. Now, mafia crimes are not needed by the people, but here the need has been created for those people that the life in the affluent West is better. And that prompts migration. Let the countries show the hardship stories, the host countries, and not simply cry from the top of the House of Commons, welcome, we'll give you succor. No. Give succor who can provide something back to you. Let people know that illegals, whenever, wherever they're caught, even after 40 years, would be punished. Even after 50 years, would be punished. And the government can take away another thing. What happens is the people come and then they have children over here. So let those people know that they are playing with the fire. Otherwise, as the situation is, human smuggling will continue and continue to increase with all its iniquity and evil actions. Thank you.